She had been sitting there for 47 minutes. The coffee in front of her had gone cold. Outside, Christmas lights blinked red and gold through frosted windows. But inside, silence. Waiting. Everyone thought she'd been stood up. The barista, a young black man named Theo with a nose ring and locks pulled back in a leather tie, brought her a second cup free, his dark eyes full of pity. A woman in a designer coat alone on Christmas Eve. They whispered. They stared. But she didn't leave. At 8:17 p.m., he walked in. Wet shoes, wrinkled jacket, out of breath. A man who looked nothing like someone she should be waiting for. But she smiled anyway, because the most expensive thing in that cafe wasn't what she wore. It was the fact that she had waited at all. Rhea Callahan had learned early in life that waiting was a luxury she couldn't afford. In boardrooms, you spoke first, or you lost ground. In negotiations, hesitation cost millions. In marriage, well, her marriage had ended 3 months ago, and the last words her ex-husband Adrian said were still lodged somewhere between her ribs and her spine. You never waited for anything, Rhea. Not for me, not for us. You were always 10 steps ahead, and I was tired of chasing. She hadn't cried then. She didn't cry now. The cafe on Maple Street had mismatched chairs and hand-painted ornaments. It smelled like cinnamon and wet wool. The couple at the next table, a young black pair holding hands over shared hot chocolate, kept glancing at her with sympathy reserved for women dining alone during the holidays. Rhea kept her gaze on the door. She had checked her phone 12 times. No messages, no missed calls, just the photo Leora had sent 3 days ago. A man with kind eyes, rich, dark skin, and a daughter who looked like she'd never stopped smiling. He's not what you're used to, Leora had said over lunch. But he's good, Rhea, really good. And I think you need good right now. Rhea had almost said no. She had a company to run, a corporate retreat to plan, a PR crisis simmering after her CFO leaked the wrong numbers. But Leora had looked at her with that expression, part pity, part concern, and Rhea had heard herself say yes. Now she was here, alone, waiting. Theo approached again, setting down the second cup without a word. His brown fingers were gentle as he placed the ceramic mug before her. She didn't know why she stayed. Logic said to leave. Pride said to leave. Every instinct she'd honed over 15 years said to stand up, walk out, and never look back. But something kept her in that chair, watching snowflakes gather on the window ledge, listening to laughter from the corner booth where a black family was celebrating something. And then the door opened. He looked exactly like someone who had fought through hell to get there. His jacket was soaked through, clinging to his broad shoulders. His jeans were spattered with slush. His hair, dark and cropped close, was damp with melting snow. His deep brown skin gleamed under the cafe's warm lights. He stood in the doorway, scanning the room with eyes the color of rich coffee. When his gaze found hers, Rhea saw something she hadn't expected. Relief. Pure, unguarded relief. He crossed the cafe in quick strides, and Rhea noticed the way people looked at him. Not with admiration, but puzzled curiosity. He didn't belong here, not in this cafe with its artisanal pastries. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice rougher than she'd imagined. "I'm Malachi. My daughter was sick. I couldn't—" He stopped, realizing he was still dripping onto the floor. Rhea stood. She was wearing heels, which made her almost eye level with him, and up close, she could see the exhaustion etched into his eyes. He smelled faintly of antiseptic and something else. Lavender, maybe. Children's soap. "It's fine," Rhea said. "I understand." Malachi's gaze dropped to the 2 coffee cups, then back to her face. "You waited." "I did." "Why?" The question caught her off guard, too direct for a first meeting. But Malachi just stood there, water pooling around his boots, waiting for an answer. Rhea sat back down. "I don't know." He took the seat across from her. Theo appeared with a towel, which Malachi accepted with a quiet "thank you" that sounded like he meant it. He dried his face, his hands. His fingers were calloused, Rhea noticed. Working hands. "How's your daughter?" she asked. "She's okay. High fever, but it broke about an hour ago. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, is watching her." "You were at the hospital?" "Yeah." His hands shook slightly. "I thought about canceling, but Junie, that's my daughter, she told me I should come. She said you might be nice." "Am I?" Rhea asked before she could stop herself. Malachi really looked at her then, and Rhea felt the full weight of his attention. It wasn't invasive, it was careful, like he was trying to see past the designer coat. "I don't know yet," he said. "But you waited. So maybe." She reached for her coffee and took a sip. It was too sweet. Theo had added sugar without asking. She drank it anyway. "Leora said you're a plumber," Rhea said. "I am." "Do you like it?" Malachi's mouth twitched. "It pays the bills, keeps Junie fed." "That's not what I asked." Some tension left his shoulders. "No, it's not what I'd choose. But I do it well, and people need me, so that counts for something." "What would you choose?" Malachi was quiet. Outside, the snow was falling harder. "I used to be an architect," he said finally. "Designed houses. I liked creating spaces where people could be happy." "Why did you stop?" "My wife got sick." His voice didn't change, but Rhea saw his jaw tighten. "Cancer. By the time she was gone, I had medical bills that would have buried us. Plumbing pays better than entry-level architecture." Rhea set her cup down. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was 3 years ago. We're okay now, Junie and me." Theo came by with a notepad. Malachi ordered water. Rhea saw the way his eyes skipped over the menu, avoiding the prices. "Get something to eat," she said. "Please." "I'm fine." "Malachi." She waited until he looked at her. "Get something to eat." He ordered a sandwich, the cheapest thing on the menu. When Theo left, Rhea felt the weight of the silence between them. "You didn't have to do that," Malachi said. "I know. I can pay for myself." "I know that too." He studied her with an unsettling directness. "Why did you really wait?" This time, Rhea didn't have a quick answer. She thought about the last 3 months, the divorce proceedings, the empty penthouse, the mornings she woke up and forgot there was no one beside her anymore. "I think," she said slowly, "I was hoping someone would wait for me too." Malachi nodded like he understood exactly what she meant. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his whole face softened. "It's Junie." He swiped to answer, and Rhea heard a small, hoarse voice. "Daddy? Hey, baby, you okay?" "Mrs. Chen made me soup. Is the lady nice?" Rhea's throat tightened. Malachi's eyes flicked to hers. "Very nice," he said softly. "Good. You deserve someone nice, Daddy." Rhea looked away, focusing on the Christmas lights. "Love you. Love you too." Malachi ended the call. "She worries about me. She's 7, and she worries about me. That's not how it's supposed to work. She loves you. Sometimes I think she'd be better off if I could give her more." He stopped, shook his head. "Sorry, you didn't sign up for this." "Didn't I?" Rhea asked. "Leora said you were a good father. She didn't mention anything else." "What else is there?" The question hung between them, simple and devastating. Theo brought Malachi's sandwich, and he ate it slowly, like someone who'd learned not to waste food. Rhea watched him without meaning to, noticing the way he said thank you when Theo refilled his water. Small things. Things Adrian had stopped doing somewhere along the way. "Can I ask you something?" Malachi said. "Go ahead." "Why are you here, really? A woman like you could be anywhere. Why a blind date with a plumber on Christmas Eve?" "Because I'm tired of being alone," she said. "And I'm tired of pretending I'm not." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Junie drew me a picture this morning. For luck. Rhea leaned forward. The drawing was simple. Stick figures in crayon, a man and a woman holding hands. Above them, Junie had written in wobbly letters, "Daddy and his new friend. Merry Christmas." There was a small smudge in the corner, like someone had cried and tried to wipe it away. "She wants you to be happy," Rhea said quietly. "She wants me to have what she can't give me." Malachi's voice was steady, but Rhea heard the fracture beneath it. Rhea's hand moved before she could think, reaching across to touch his wrist. "You're not broken." Malachi looked at her hand. "How do you know?" "Because broken people don't show up 40 minutes late to a blind date and still apologize." He almost smiled. "I should go. Junie's with Mrs. Chen, and I don't like leaving her too long." "I understand." Malachi stood and pulled out his wallet. Rhea saw the worn leather, the careful way he counted out bills. She wanted to tell him not to bother, but she knew that would hurt more than help. "Thank you for waiting," he said. "I know it probably seemed—" "Don't apologize again. You're here. That's what matters." He tucked Junie's drawing back into his pocket, and Rhea felt a sudden, irrational urge to ask him to stay. "Can I see you again?" Malachi asked. "Or was this enough?" Rhea stood, gathering her coat. "Do you have plans for the rest of the night?" "Just going home to Junie." "Can I come with you?" The question surprised them both. Malachi blinked, and Rhea felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I don't mean—" she started, but Malachi held up a hand. "I know what you mean." He hesitated. "Junie said she wanted to bake cookies tonight. If you wanted to—" "I'd like that," Rhea said. And she meant it. Malachi's apartment was a 20-minute bus ride away. They sat near the back, and through the fogged windows, Rhea watched the city slide past, storefronts and the occasional glimpse of families gathered around dinner tables. Malachi didn't try to fill the silence with small talk, and Rhea was grateful for that. The building was old but well kept, red brick with white shutters. As they climbed the narrow staircase, Rhea noticed how the wood creaked, how the hallway smelled like pot roast. It was nothing like her penthouse. It was warm. Malachi unlocked the door. The apartment was small, a living room that flowed into a kitchen, a hallway leading to 2 bedrooms. There was a Christmas tree in the corner, homemade ornaments on every branch, construction paper snowflakes, popsicle stick reindeer, a star at the top made from aluminum foil, and on the couch, curled under a blanket, was Junie. She was small for 7, with dark curly hair in 2 messy braids and cheeks still flushed with fever. Her brown skin had the same rich tone as her father's. Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman with kind eyes, was knitting in the armchair beside her. "Malachi," Mrs. Chen said, standing. "She fell asleep 20 minutes ago. Fever's down." "Thank you, Mrs. Chen. I owe you." "You owe me nothing." Mrs. Chen gathered her things, pausing to look at Rhea with open curiosity. "Have a Merry Christmas, both of you." After she left, Malachi knelt beside Junie, pressing his hand to her forehead. "Still warm," he murmured. He adjusted the blanket around her shoulders. "She's beautiful," Rhea whispered. Malachi looked at his daughter with something beyond love. Pride, grief, hope, all tangled together. "She looks like her mom. Same hair, same stubborn chin." Junie stirred, eyes fluttering open. She saw Malachi and smiled. "Daddy, you're back." "I'm back, baby." Junie's gaze shifted to Rhea. No shyness, just curiosity. "Are you Daddy's friend?" Rhea moved closer, kneeling to Junie's level. "I hope so. I'm Rhea." "I'm Junie." She coughed, a rough sound. "Did Daddy show you my picture?" "He did. It's beautiful." Junie's smile widened. "Do you like cookies?" "I do." "Good. Because Daddy said we could bake some tonight, but I don't think I can get up." She looked at Malachi, apologetic. "I'm sorry, Daddy." "Hey." Malachi brushed hair from Junie's face. You don't apologize for being sick. Rhea stood, crossing to the small kitchen, and opened the fridge. Butter, eggs, flour in the cupboard, sugar in a container that had seen better days. What if, Rhea said, we baked cookies here. Junie can tell us what to do, and we'll do the work. Junie's eyes lit up. They baked cookies. Junie directed from the couch, her voice hoarse but determined. More sugar, Daddy, and Miss Rhea, you have to crack the eggs with one hand or it's bad luck. The first egg shattered, shell and yolk mixing in a mess that made Junie giggle. The second one worked, barely, and Malachi caught her eye across the counter and smiled. They worked in rhythm, Malachi measuring, Rhea mixing. Flour ended up on Malachi's shirt and butter on Rhea's sleeve. Junie laughed at them both, and the sound filled the small apartment like light. When the first batch came out, misshapen and slightly burned on the edges, Junie declared them perfect. Malachi brought her one, still warm, and she took a small bite before handing it to Rhea. You try, Junie insisted. Rhea took a bite. It was too sweet and slightly underbaked in the middle, and it was the best thing she'd tasted in years. Perfect, Rhea said. Junie beamed. She looked at Malachi, then at Rhea. Can Miss Rhea stay for Christmas? Malachi froze. Junie, he said gently, Miss Rhea probably has plans. I don't. Rhea looked at Malachi, then at Junie. I don't have plans. Junie's eyes filled with tears. Before Rhea could ask if she was okay, the little girl had her arms around Rhea's neck, hugging her with fierce, desperate love. Thank you, Junie whispered. Daddy needs someone. He won't say it, but he does. Over Junie's shoulder, she saw Malachi standing in the kitchen, eyes closed. When he opened them, there were tears on his face. Okay, he said roughly. Okay. That night, Junie fell asleep on the couch, and Malachi carried her to her room. Rhea stayed in the kitchen, washing dishes that didn't need washing. When Malachi came back, he found her by the window. She's out, he said. Fever's down. He came to stand beside her, close enough that Rhea could feel his warmth. I don't know what we're doing, he said quietly, but I'm glad you're here. Me too. They stayed up late, talking in low voices. Malachi told her about his wife Sarah, about the way cancer had stolen her slowly and then all at once. Rhea told him about her divorce, about the way success had become a prison she'd built for herself. They didn't try to fix each other. They just listened. Somewhere around 2 a.m, Rhea fell asleep on the couch, and Malachi covered her with the same blanket he'd tucked around Junie earlier. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through the window. Junie was sitting on the floor by the Christmas tree, eyes bright. Miss Rhea, you're awake! Santa came! There were a handful of presents under the tree, wrapped in newspaper and tied with string. Junie handed one to Rhea. This is for you. I made it yesterday, but Daddy wrapped it. Rhea's hands shook as she unwrapped it. Inside was a cookie, heart-shaped, decorated with red frosting and the words, "Thank you for waiting," written in Junie's unsteady hand. Rhea couldn't speak. She just held the cookie and cried. Junie crawled into her lap. Don't be sad, Junie whispered. It's Christmas. I'm not sad. I'm happy. Good. Junie pulled back, looking at her seriously. Daddy says being real is better than being perfect. Are you real? Rhea looked at Malachi, who was watching with an expression she couldn't quite name. I'm trying to be, she said. Junie nodded, satisfied. Then you can stay. They spent Christmas morning together, cookies for breakfast, presents that were small and thoughtful. Junie gave Malachi a drawing of the three of them. Malachi gave Junie new crayons. Around noon, Rhea's phone buzzed. Leora. Where are you? Leora demanded. The date was last night. I'm with Malachi. Silence. Then, you're still there? Yeah, Leora laughed. Good. How do you feel? Terrified, but good. Then stay terrified. That's how you know it's real. That evening, Rhea helped Junie get ready for bed. She read her a story about a princess who didn't need rescuing, and when Junie's eyes started to close, she kissed her forehead. In the hallway, Malachi was waiting. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For staying. For being here." Rhea reached for his hand. "I waited 47 minutes for you to walk into that café. I'm not going anywhere now." Malachi pulled her close. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice muffled against her hair. "I don't know. Maybe we just keep showing up." "Can you do that? Show up for someone like me?" "Someone like you?" Rhea echoed. "Malachi, you showed up late to a blind date and still apologized. You work a job you don't love so your daughter can eat. You waited for love even when it hurt. If I can't show up for someone like you, then I don't deserve to show up anywhere." Malachi's eyes filled with tears, and Rhea wiped them away. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Scared of not being enough." "Me too. But maybe that's okay." Malachi kissed her then, soft and tentative, and Rhea kissed him back. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was two people choosing to be brave together. "Stay," he said. "Not just tonight." Rhea thought about all the reasons she should say no. Then she thought about Junie's drawing and the way Malachi had shown up 47 minutes late and still came anyway. "Okay," she said. "I'll stay." And she did. 3 months later, spring was thawing the last of the winter snow. Rhea stood in the doorway of a house, a real house, watching Malachi and Junie paint the living room walls. Junie had chosen the color, a warm yellow that reminded Rhea of sunshine. "Miss Rhea, you're getting paint on your pants." Rhea looked down. Sure enough, a streak of yellow marked her jeans. She laughed, a sound that still surprised her sometimes. It had taken weeks to sell the penthouse, longer to find this house. But Malachi had designed it in his head first, sketched it on napkins over late-night coffee. Junie's room was painted the color of sunshine. The kitchen was big enough for all the cookies they'd ever want to bake. And in the backyard, there was space for a garden Junie insisted they plant together. "Daddy says this is our forever home," Junie announced. "Is that true, Miss Rhea?" Rhea knelt to Junie's level. "I think so. Does that sound okay?" Junie pretended to think about it. "Only if we can get a dog." "Junie," Malachi warned. "A small one, with floppy ears." Rhea caught Malachi's eye. He shook his head, but he was smiling. "We'll see," Rhea said. "That means yes." Junie hugged her tightly, then ran off to continue painting. Malachi wrapped his arms around Rhea from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. They stood together, watching their daughter, because that's what Junie was now, even if the paperwork wasn't official yet, sing to herself as she worked. "I never thought I'd have this again," Malachi said. "Have what?" "A family, a real one." Rhea turned in his arms. "You always had a family. Junie made sure of that." "I know, but now it's bigger." He touched her face. "Now it includes you." That night, after Junie was in bed, Rhea and Malachi sat on the porch of their new house. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked. "The cafe?" "Every day." "What do you think about?" Malachi was quiet for a moment. "I think about how close I came to not showing up. The hospital, Junie's fever. I almost called Leora and canceled." "Why didn't you?" "Because Junie looked at me with those big eyes and said, 'Daddy, what if she's the one?' So I went. 47 minutes late, soaking wet, completely unprepared. And there you were." "There I was." "You waited." "I did." Malachi took her hand. "Why? Really, you never gave me a real answer." Rhea thought about it. The empty penthouse and the failed marriage. The success that never filled the void. Sitting in that cafe, watching the snow fall, knowing she should leave but staying anyway. "Because I was tired of running," she said finally. "My whole life I've been running towards something success, money, control, and I was so busy running that I never stopped to see what I was running from. What were you running from? Being alone. Really, truly alone. She looked at him, and then I was sitting in that cafe, and I realized I was already alone. I had been for years. So when you didn't show up on time, I had a choice. I could leave, keep running, or I could stay. Admit that I wanted something more. And you stayed. Best decision I ever made. Malachi kissed her, slow and deep, and Rhea felt the last of her walls crumble. She had spent so long building them, convincing herself that strength meant never needing anyone. But this was stronger. This was choosing to be vulnerable. I love you, Malachi said. I know it's only been 3 months, but I love you too. 6 months later, Rhea officially adopted Junie. The courthouse was small and unremarkable, but the moment the judge signed the papers, Junie let out a whoop that echoed off the walls. You're my mom now! For real! Rhea caught her as she launched into her arms. For real. Malachi stood beside them, crying openly. Rhea had learned that about him. He wasn't ashamed of tears. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for choosing us. You chose me first, Rhea said. That night in the cafe. You chose to show up. We chose each other. 1 year later, they got married. It was a small ceremony in the backyard of the house Malachi had designed. Junie was the flower girl, scattering petals with more enthusiasm than precision. Leora was Rhea's maid of honor, crying before the vows even started. When they exchanged rings, Malachi's hands shook. I'm nervous, he admitted. Me too. I've done this before. You'd think it would be easier. Does it feel the same? Malachi looked at her. Really looked, the way he had that first night in the cafe. No. It feels like coming home. They said their vows. Simple promises about showing up, about staying, about building a life together one day at a time. When Malachi kissed her, Junie cheered so loudly that the neighbors probably heard. That night, after the guests had gone and Junie was asleep, Rhea and Malachi sat on the porch again. It had become their spot, the place where they talked about everything and nothing. Do you ever miss it? Malachi asked. The old life? The penthouse? The board meetings? Rhea considered the question. She still ran her company, had actually expanded it, but she'd learned to delegate, to step away when family needed her. Sometimes I miss the simplicity, she admitted, when the only person I had to worry about was myself. But that was lonely. This is better. Even when Junie tracks mud through the house? Even then. Even when I leave my socks everywhere? That one's harder to forgive. Malachi laughed, pulling her closer. I love this life, Rhea said. I love our messy, imperfect, beautiful life. I love burnt cookies and homework help and Sunday morning pancakes. I love you. I love you too. 3 years later, Junie was 10, and Rhea was pregnant. Baby brother, Junie announced to everyone who would listen, or a baby sister. Either way, I'm going to be the best big sister ever. Malachi handled the news by crying for approximately 3 hours and then building a crib from scratch. You know we could just buy one, Rhea pointed out. Where's the fun in that? The nursery was painted green, a compromise between Junie's request for rainbow and Rhea's preference for something soothing. It's perfect, Rhea said, standing in the doorway. It's missing something. Malachi pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. Junie made this. It was a drawing, stick figures like the one from that first night, but this time there were 4 of them. Malachi, Rhea, Junie, and a small blob that was presumably the baby. Above them, in Junie's now steadier handwriting, our family, forever. Their daughter was born on a rainy Tuesday in April. They named her Hope. Junie held her first, cradling her baby sister with exaggerated care. She's so tiny, Junie whispered. Hope blinked up at Junie with unfocused eyes. Junie leaned down and kissed her forehead. I'm going to teach you everything, Junie promised. And I'm going to tell you about Mommy and Daddy and how they met. Years passed. Hope grew. Junie became a teenager, then a young woman, then, somehow, an adult with her own apartment and her own life. But she always came home for Christmas. It was tradition now. The whole family would gather in the house with its yellow walls and big kitchen and backyard garden. They would bake cookies together. Rhea still couldn't crack an egg with one hand, and exchange presents wrapped in newspaper and string. And every year, without fail, Malachi would pull out that first drawing, the one Junie had made for luck. Daddy and his new friend, he'd read aloud. Merry Christmas. Junie would groan. You still have that? I'll always have this. Rhea would look at her family, this beautiful, improbable family that had started with a 47-minute wait in a coffee shop, and feel her heart expand with gratitude. She had spent so many years chasing success. But success, she'd learned, wasn't something you achieved. It was something you built day by day, choice by choice, showing up when it was hard, staying when it would be easier to leave, loving even when love was terrifying. That was success. That was everything. On their 20th wedding anniversary, Rhea and Malachi returned to the café on Maple Street. It looked different now. New owners, new decor, but the mismatched chairs were still there, and the air still smelled like cinnamon. They sat at the same table where Rhea had waited 2 decades ago. 47 minutes, Malachi said. Best 47 minutes of my life. He reached across the table and took her hand. His fingers were still calloused, still rough from years of building things, but now they bore a wedding ring that hadn't left his finger in 20 years. Thank you, he said. For what? For waiting, for staying, for choosing this life with me. Rhea smiled. Thank you for showing up. Outside, snow was falling, just like it had that first night. Red and gold lights blinked in the frosted windows. Somewhere a family was laughing, and inside, 2 people who had once been strangers sat together, hands intertwined, hearts full. They had built something beautiful, something lasting, something that had started with a simple choice: to wait, to show up, to stay. That was the test, Rhea realized. Not success or wealth or power, just this. Would you wait? Would you stay? She had. They both had. And that had made all the difference.